Hello and welcome to chapter 16 of this Flutter course. In the previous chapters, we've talked about the login and registration page, and also we took a little detour to talk about Git and GitHub. So now you should have all those things set up. So you should also have some sort of an emulator, simulator, or real device set up. So we're testing our application right from Visual Studio Code or Android Studio or Sublime, whatever text editor you want on those devices. In this chapter, we're going to, as the caption says here, we're going to talk about email verification. And I talked about this in one of the previous chapters, why we need email verification. But the main reason for that is, as you can see in the caption here, it says people can sign up with emails they don't own. And that is a little bit of a problem. And the reason why it is a problem is that you might get into a situation. Actually, I can see here my Wi-Fi is kind of tripping. Okay, it's connected now. Sorry about that. What could happen is if a user comes in to the application, starts your Flutter application on their phone or tablet, and then they sign up with an email that they don't own. And then I, as the rightful owner of that email address, come to and download the same application and try to register my email. And the application says, as well, this email address already exists. So so we have a problem here. So what we need to make sure is that the people who register on an email can also verify that they own that email address. Okay. So let's take care of that in this chapter. Gonna bring up Visual Studio Code, or you also bring up the editor of your choice, where you're the editor that you're comfortable with. And I'm just gonna take in my notes that I've talked about that. So what we're going to do here as the first step is to go to our main Dart file here, right after homepage, and create a stateful widget, I believe. So I'm going to do that right now. So you remember SDF, stateful. Then we're going to call it, let me see, verify email view. All right. And in here, what we're going to do is just to return a simple scaffold. So I'm just going to say return scaffold for now. We're going to get a const error here. So I'm just going to put const in there. So that's for our stateful widget. Then what we're going to do is we are, as you can see here, as soon as we see that the email isn't verified here, we just say you are, that it is verified. We say you are a verified user. And if you're not verified, we just say you need to verify your email first. But in both cases, what we're doing is that we're just returning a text widget that says done, and it's displayed here. So what we need to do here is to, if the user is verified, in here, we're going to say return this. Otherwise, what we need to do is to display this verify email view. Okay. But the way we need to do this right now, and we're actually going to fix this quite a lot as we go on, but right now I just want to show you how to push a view into the screen. Now, pushing is a concept that I believe came into like widespread existence after iOS and Android became popular in the early days of like 2006, 2007. Actually, it was 2007, I think. And pushing is where you have a screen and you're seeing that screen, and then you press a button or something and another screen just kind of pushes itself on top of the existing screen. Okay. So what we need to do now is to, if we see that, well, you haven't verified your email, we want to push this verify email view. And a way to do that in Flutter is with something called a navigator. And remember, this is a little bit problematic. The thing that we're going to do right now is actually going to cause an error, and I will explain all of this. But for now, let's just go ahead and do this. So we will fix things as we go on. Okay. So right here, that where we say you need to verify your email first, and we can actually see that in the console. Here, oh, you can't see it because it's hidden by the caption, but you can see now it says you need to verify your email first. So let's go ahead and push that verify email view onto the screen. What I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of this. So make the, what should I do here? Should I go back to the same layout so you can see? Yeah, that's probably better. So go in here and say navigator off, and then you say your build context, and then you should say push. Now push is the function that you're calling, and you can see here it says, okay, give me a route, and then you say material route here, material page route, okay, and then there's a builder function in here, and we just put like this. I will explain all of this soon to you, and then in here say verify email view, just like that. We have to return all of this, and I think there's something wrong with all of this. Let's see, builder, and then we're doing that, and then one parenthesis I think is missing. Is it? So this one closes there. Then there's this one, and this one needs to be removed. And what is the actual error that's being displayed? The return type future dynamic isn't a widget as required. Okay, and what we need to do is just to do this, and yeah, that's fine. So let's bring this return done back to where it was, and then we remove this print statement from here as well, and this print statement from there, and make this const. And I'm going to explain all of this, so don't worry about it. All right, so what is happening here is, as you can see, sorry about that, my throat isn't really working with me today. So what is happening here is, you see in our future builder here, we are expected in the builder function, which we are right now in here, you see, we're always expected to return a widget. So that's what the future builder does. It is in itself a widget that performs a feature, and once that feature is done or it errors out or whatever, then it calls this builder function, and in the builder function, it is expected to return, that builder function in itself is expected to return a widget, something to display on the screen, okay? Now, your job as a developer who's using the future builder is to actually return a widget in this builder function. And that's why we're doing here what we are doing here. We're saying if the connection state, if the future is done, return this text of done. Otherwise, return this text. So we have basically fulfilled the contractual agreement here. Builder expects a widget, we return a widget. However, we're trying to be clever here and saying that, okay, we do return done, but also we're performing an action, which is navigator of this context, which is our build context. And we haven't talked about build context so much before, but you can actually see, I mean, the documentation isn't so clear. Maybe it says this class presents a set of methods that can be used from build methods and from, but anyways, what a build context is kind of like a packaged bit of information that you can use in order to pass data from one widget to the other, and it is very useful for instance, if you're using block. And we haven't talked about block yet, but just know that build context is kind of like a bit of information about the context where your widget is at. So in here, what we're saying create a navigator of this context. And navigator is just a class for you, okay? And then when you tell navigator to push something, it says, okay, what do you want me to push on the screen? Then we say create a material page route to push, and you can see that material page route has an argument called builder, which in itself expects a widget, okay? So you need to return a widget in this build function. But all we're doing here, to be honest with you, is just saying that push a widget on the screen. That's all. So this is like the format that you need to learn about. Okay, navigator of a context, push, material page route, builder, context, and then you put your widget in there. Okay. All right. That was a lot of information. I mean, this looks kind of okay at the moment. So, however, there is a problem with it. And if you're not careful, you can miss that problem. And I really always like to bring up my debug console so that I'm aware of all problems that might happen. And the problem that you can see on the screen is said unhandle exception. Package Flutter widgets navigator dart failed assertion line blah blah in navigator. So there is an error. And there is actually a GitHub issue for that. I can see I've actually linked it there as well, but we're going to come to that. But just be aware that what we are doing here is not really good, is not a good idea to push something inside a future builder. But we're going to do it anyways, just so we can fix it later, so that you know at least this issue exists. And at the same time, we achieve what we're trying to do here, which is displaying a new widget once a condition is met. In this case, the user's email is not verified. Okay. All right. What we need to do now is fix this up, fix our widget up here. I'm going to just take some items in my notes. All right. So at the moment, our verify email view, it's a completely white scaffold. It doesn't even have an app bar. There's nothing in there. So what we can do is just to first of all go and create an app bar here. So we say app bar, an app bar title. We've done this before, so you should know already the syntax. And then the title is just going to say verify email. Verify email. And I can see app bar title is text. I don't even know what I've done wrong here, to be honest with you. The constraint isn't a const constructor. Okay, it just means that, well, okay, I have to remove this and I have to make this text const. I mean, I'm like moving past these things, but you may be a little bit confused if you haven't done this before. You may be confused what I'm doing here. Maybe I should explain actually what is happening here. You see, before we started using the app bar in scaffold, everything was completely fine. Dart was completely okay, and I said, okay, I'm gonna accept this as it is. What we're telling Dart here is that we're creating a scaffold, and it is a constant scaffold. It means we're not actually doing any special configuration that makes this not a constant. Okay, so let's actually go here. I'm going to hold down Command on my Macintosh. You can hold down Control on your Linux machine or Windows and click on Scaffold. Excuse me. And you can see that the initializer that I'm calling here, or the constructor that I'm calling here, is marked as const here. Okay. But as soon as we put app bar in here, and I'm going to click on the same thing again, let's see if we can find that initializer. Scaffold, app bar, this app bar. I can't really seem to find that particular initializer. But what is happening essentially here is saying that what you're trying to do here, which is creating an app bar with a text inside here, a text widget and an app bar, makes this scaffold widget not a constant anymore. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is say, okay, I understand that that's not a constant anymore. Remove this constant on scaffold. But then you get an error here, or well, a problem telling that, okay, you've removed the const from scaffold, but still you could make your code better by making your text a constant, because this text widget seems to be a constant. All right, so I'm going to make that a constant now. All right, so back to our, so I'm going to press Command S here. Is not true, and I'm going to hot restart. Verify email. Okay, and I can see we have, it's, again, we have a problem with hot reload, because as soon as we do hot reload, then we get this error. But this error is simply because of something weird that we're doing in here. So if you get this error, just do hot restart and you should be good to go until we fix this problem, okay? All right. So as you can see in the caption of this chapter, what we need to do here is to display a column, text, and a text button to send the verification email. So let's go to the body of our scaffold. So I'm just going to say body, and let's create a column, children. And inside the children, let's just go and say we have a text and say, please verify your email address. And that's that. And then what we're going to do in here, we're going to place a text button as well. And perhaps what could be better is if I scroll this a little bit up so you can see the code in its entirety. Then the text button, if you remember from the previous chapters, it has two very important and required parameters, child and onPress. According to Dart's analysis tools, or Flutter's analysis tools, the child parameter of those widgets or those functions that do accept the child is preferred to always be the last parameter. So go ahead and create the unpressed first, and then go ahead and create the child. So in the child, we're going to say text of send email verification. Okay, and make this text constant. So Dart is happy about that, and make this constant as well. Press Command S, and don't forget the comma here, then hot reload so we can see the results. Okay, so now we have some text in there, and then we have a button here that says send email verification. Okay, I'm going to take it in my notes that I've talked about this so we don't miss it. Now what we need to do here is upon pressing this button, we actually need to send an email verification to the current user. Okay, so what we need is the current user. So that comes from, let's see if you can find it in our login view and register view. We have, you see, login view, user credentials, Firebase code. Let's see. Actually, we got the user right here, Firebase initialize app, and then we were like yeah, that's how you get your current user, Firebase auth instance current user. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that information from our home page, okay, and bring it into your verify email view state in the button press right there. So this is how you get your user. Okay, now what we need to do is, as the caption says here, we need to await on the user send email verification. So say await user send, let's see, user send email verification. Okay, so now you can see this is a function, and it says, okay, it can't be unconditionally invoked, and that is because user can be nil or null, and it is an optional user. So as you've understood from the previous chapters, you need to conditionally access this function. Now, be a little bit careful here because this function is a future. You see, it's a future void. So as you know, calling a function that returns a future void does not invoke the future, except it only tells the function to return the future. Okay, so if you actually want the future to be executed, you need to await on it. So if you then say await here, you'll see we get an error telling that yeah, you can't do asynchronous calls in this current scope that you're at, and that is simply because the unpressed function is not marked as asynchronous. Okay, so remember that. Great. So I'm gonna press Command S here. We get the error. I'm gonna do this hot restart. Then if I'm not mistaken, I mean, if I bring a browser up, let's see if I can bring a browser window here, and I'm going to say console.firebase Google. And let's go to our My Notes Flutter project, and let's go and have a look at our authentication. I can see that there's a user here. It says pixolityab@gmail.com. For you, it's probably going to say something else. Hopefully, it's going to say something else so that you haven't registered with my email. And what we need to do then is to simply go here and press the send email verification button. Boom. Okay, so nothing happened on the screen. And I'm going to bring up the right caption here so you know what we're talking about. Now we want to kind of look at how this email actually looks like. So let's see if I can bring up that email without like bringing up all my other emails and other users, because that's kind of like private information. So, all right, so let's go ahead and see. I'm gonna then bring up this email on the screen so you can see how it looks like. So as that email address you can see here, that's my email address, or this is the user that is logged in into our application, then received an email from Firebase, which is no reply at mynotesflutterproject.firebaseapp.com. Okay. And it says, okay, you need to click on this link in order to verify your user. So now I'm just going to take in my actions in my notes here that I've talked about that. And let's then click on this link to verify our identity. And here it says your email has been verified. You can now sign in with your new account. Great. Okay. So I'm going to close that, take it in my notes that I've talked about it. And what we can do here then is just to refresh here, and there's nothing really different about this user, as you can see. So we're also looking at that user, and you can't really, I mean, at the moment, I can't personally see if this user is verified or not. So maybe that's something that Firebase is going to provide in the future, just like a checkbox or something saying, or like a, yeah, just like a check icon saying whether this user is verified or not. But you can't see that at the moment in Firebase console. At least I can't. All right. A lot of information. Now let's go to our talk about this error that we got on the screen. And I've provided a little link here, which I'm going to click on a separate screen and then bring it up here on the screen that you can see. Now, if you remember where we pushed this verify email widget on the screen using navigator and then material page route, I think it's called. Where is it? Material page route here. Do you remember? Then we got this error on handle exception. Okay. And then there's an issue actually for that here on Flutter's GitHub repository. So as you know, Flutter is an open source project and is an organization here on GitHub, and pretty much everything that they're doing for Flutter is under that organization on GitHub. So as you can see here, it says how to call navigator push in future builder error log. And then there's lots of great discussions about like what should be done and etc. But just know that for now, what you need to know is that you cannot do that without having that error. Although things may seem fine in on the screen, but as you saw, as soon as you do hot hot reload, then you will have this error also. So there's an exception being thrown, and we need to handle that. All right. So after you've looked at that GitHub issue and you've gone through the comments, you'll understand that that's not the way to do things in Flutter, at least not for now. And I'm actually going to take it in my notes. So if you see me looking here, I'm just making sure that I'm explaining everything to you, okay? So what we need to do now is to go and change the way our verify email view is created. So instead of us returning, you see here, what we're doing is that we're in our verify email view, what we're returning an entire scaffold. And that is why we're trying to push this screen on our current home page, because we're saying that here's the home page, and then this is the verify email view, and it has a scaffold just like the home page does. Do you remember? If you go up to our homepage also has a scaffold and an app bar. So what we're pretty much saying right now is that this is the homepage, and we kind of need to move another page on top of it, which pretty much has the same structure. It has the app bar, etc., etc. And that is causing the problem because we're pushing something in future builder and we're not allowed to do that. So what you need to do now is, in order to fix this problem just for now, we go and remove the scaffold. And in our build function, all we're going to do is just to return the column. Okay. So go on your scaffold here and here. What we're going to do is we're just going to say, let's see if we have a remove functionality here, and we don't, and that's okay. I'm just going to grab this column and I'm going to bring it a little bit up so you can see. I'm going to put a comma here, hot reload, so we don't see the ugly error on the screen. And grab your column here, and without the comma at the end, grab that column, and in the build function, just return that, okay, instead of your scaffold and a semicolon at the end. All right. So that's what we're gonna do now. For now, we're just gonna return column there, and then what we need to do, let me see. Actually, that's what we're gonna do now, or is it something that we're gonna do later? Yeah. So yes, we've now changed verify email view, and that returns a column. Now let's go in here. You see, in here, when we see that the user isn't verified, what we need to do then is to say navigator, instead of navigator of, we're going to just return our verify email view in here. Okay, so let me go in here and just say return that as a constant. And in here, it's done. Otherwise, do that. So I'm going to press Command S here and a hot reload. Okay, so let's go and see what is happening here. So what we're saying is that if user instance current, if user email verified, then return done. Otherwise, return verify email view. So what's happening, to be honest with you, is that previously where we were pushing an entire screen on the current screen, now what we're doing is saying that here is a screen already. Put this verify email views widget that is returned from the build function right inside this current screen's content. Okay, so it's a little bit of a difference. Instead of pushing a whole new screen, we're putting that new screen's contents in our screen. All right. Okay, and now we have this, and I see now that our app still thinks that we're not verified. But what we could do is just to make sure, you can see here that at least we're not getting that ugly error anymore. So if I do a hot restart here, I can see this email verification. And that's a little bit strange, to be honest with you, because we did verify our user. So what I'm going to do is just to ensure that this phone right now has internet connection. And it does. So that user should have been verified. And I think we actually did click on the verification email. So let me go back here, go back to the application. And what we could do is just to stop the application from running and then press run without debugging, and just to ensure that everything is set up correctly. So if everything's working fine, then we shouldn't come to verify email view. Instead, we should go to here. We should display the done text to the user. So let's just ensure that that is working as expected before we continue with the next item. I can still see this, and we could simply put some poor man debugging in here and just print the user email, like prints the entire user to the screen, Command S, okay? And let's go in here. I can see email verified is still false, is anonymous false, metadata, last sign-in time. So it still thinks that I'm not verified. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send an email verification, and I'm just going to go to my mail here, and let me go here, and I'm going to bring up that email, and let me just ensure that we can click on that link, and it says your email has been verified. Okay, then let's close this, and I'm going to do a hot reload here. And to be honest with you, I can still see now that we're not verified. So let's go into Safari and say Firebase, Flutter, email verified, not working. Email verification. Let's see if there's something that we're missing. Firebase auth current user, and then user null is email verified, and I believe that is what we're doing here. This is not hopefully a future, is actually a user. Yeah, and in here we're initializing the application, so that should work fine as well. And then we're getting the user and then email verified. That should also work. So one thing to implement is email verified in init state function periodic can be ideal approach to execute for verification with Firebase. Well, that's not really the problem here. Connection state waiting. And it could simply be that we need to just try to log in with that user so that it tries to contact Firebase again, okay? So what I'm going to do here is to, as we have planned here, let's go and change both the login view and the register view as well, so that they don't return an entire scaffold, but instead we're going to make sure that they only return their actual content. Okay, as you can see, I put in the caption here that they shouldn't for now return a scaffold. So that's going to be done in the home page. So let's go, and I can see I have a little bit of now return a scaffold. That's the job of homepage. So I just fixed our little caption there as well. Let's go to login view, and I'm going to go here, And let's go to your login view here. You can see we have Firebase, initialize app, future builder. We have all that logic also in both login view and register, and we shouldn't be doing that. So I'm going to grab this return column all the way from there and go to all the way where the return column ends, grab that. Then I'm going to pretty much nuke the entire build function and instead return the column. Okay, so that's our login view. And now we have a lot of unused imports. I'm going to remove them as well. Then I'm going to go to our register view, and for now as well, do the same thing for register view. Go to your build function in the register view, and everything needs to be removed except for the actual content, which is the column. So grab the column, as you can see here, nuke the entire build function, and just return your column. All right. So what I'm going to do here is to fix this email verification issue. Perhaps what we need to do here is, for now, let's go in here and just comment out all the code. So when the initialization of Firebase is done, just return your login view. So let's say return login view, okay, as a constant. So I'm just going to press Command S, and then we come here and I'm going to enter pixelityab@gmail.com foodbar baz, okay? And if you remember from login view, if you go back to login view, we had this beautiful little thing that printed the user credentials to the screen. So that is saved already, and I've saved here as well. So let's go and enter that information, pixelityab@gmail.com, and then foodbar baz. And let me bring up the debug console and kind of change the screen layout so you see it a little bit better as well. I'm going to clear the console, and I'm going to press the login button. So here now we have the user credential. You can see it's printed to the screen. And now email verified is set to true. So the problem there was that when there's email verification sent, Firebase, as a user, I mean, this is something for me to learn as well. So I'm actually grateful that I'm learning as I'm actually teaching. So once what happened here is that we verified an email, and that email verification, we clicked on the link, but Firebase doesn't immediately understand that you've, as a user, have verified your email now. So what you need to do, you need to ask the user to log in. And upon that point, it seems like Firebase is actually refreshing that data locally, as well as contacting Firebase backend and getting the latest information from there. So just because your user has verified their information doesn't mean that the application is immediately going to understand that. So you need to ask the user to log in again. Okay. So I can see here now we were supposed to return the login view. So I'm going to take some items in my notes just to make sure that I've talked about them. And we're returning the login view right now from our homepage. So this is something you'll need to do also before we continue to the next chapter. All right, that was a lot of information, and but for this chapter, what we've done pretty much is just to create the verify email view, or what we call it. Is it called verify? Yeah, verify email view. We ensured that it can send an email. We clicked on the link in the email and made sure that the user is verified, and that all has been working fine. But we still have a lot to work on. And as you can see it right now, I'm going into the code and manually returning the screens that I personally want to see, or it's important for you to see, for instance, the login view. But if you display login view, how is the user able to go from the login view to the register view if they don't have an account that they can log in with? So that's what we're going to do in the next chapter. We're going to create links between our screens so that a user can go from one screen to the other and then back. So yeah, great job. That's it for this chapter, and I'll see you in the next one.